just because you signed in first.
Yeah, I accepted the recording, John. So let's kick this meeting off then. Today is 2024, September 25th. We are here for another special interest group Upjet meeting. Looks like we don't have much agenda today. I wonder if that's because we are doing a good job keeping track of tickets, or we are doing a very bad job that people quit joining these meetings. I don't know. We will see.
Don't speak too soon. Blake just joined. The agenda's going to
Oh
go
yeah.
big now.
Oh, come on. I don't really have
Let-
much actually, which is maybe
You
surprising.
don't? Okay.
I think the only thing I want to talk about is just why OSI is not being happy with me on that PR. But besides that, it's pretty much all I got.
I haven't even checked, Blake. Did the latest update test pass or fail on your
Failed.
I added? Oh man,
Yeah,
still with a
same.
permission error.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's like an SAP you guys have on the account or something. Obviously I don't have permissions to go look, so
Yeah, because I had a look. That specific permission that it moans about is part of the ingest that I added policy.
yeah. Well, it says there's an explicit deny. So obviously there's got to be like there's somewhere we're denying it. I don't know why or I don't know what, but something is denying it. Because it would be different if it said, it would be different if I think the error would be different if it said, I don't have a allow, right? I'm not allowed to do this versus there's an explicit deny telling me I can't do this.
Okay, so it's the exact same message then as before.
Yeah.
Okay, damn it. I'll have a look again.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. So
Oh man. To what we could do to move forward is if you do manual verification and you just post a screenshot of it passing locally or wherever, we can accept the PR without updates passing. We'll just note that there's a conflict we need to fix still, so we don't have to hold it up.
yeah,
For,
I
for
can do that. The only thing that's weird on OSI particular is the pipeline config. It will fail to create if it doesn't have access to like the role. So if you specify a role in like a dummy account that you don't have access to, it essentially just fails. So that's why I kind of noted it in the PR that you have to update the account ID with the actual account ID you're trying to run uptest in. So I kind of looked at some of the other examples that were codified, and from there I pretty much just said, this is the account ID that I think uptest runs in, so I'm going to try using that account ID and have that in code.
Okay, so maybe I can verify the account ID as well. All right.
Yeah.
I'll work with you asynchronously on resolving that one. Or if we have some time, we can hack away at it at the end of it. But let's
Yeah, for
hand
sure.
over to Jim again. Jim, back to you.
All right. I don't know what to say. There's nothing in the agenda. Maybe we can give updates on Upbound side, but we don't have that much updates. We have released a few versions. Let me see. Yeah, indeed, we had a critical issue of not showing errors, but it was released the last time. Oh no, we were working on it last time. Now I am proud to announce that it has shipped with patch releases. So please update to latest patch releases or the latest release so that you can see errors from providers again. And I intended to work on updating Crossplane runtime in Upjet. It was a request from Christian, then another community member opened a PR for that one. But because we were swamped with other work, I couldn't find time to do it before this meeting. Hopefully for the next time.
Walt, any specific
Anyone?
topics you would like to talk about?
Yep.
Nothing specifically, no.
The only other two maybe bigger topics that I think may be of interest are just like the two things I think and I also kind of brought this up in the community meeting. I think one of the things that has me slightly concerned is when I started playing around with a init provider and management policies and all that sort of stuff. And specifically, I think I opened up an issue in Crossplane run, the Crossplane core, about how if you try to do asynchronous init provider with async resources, at least in Upjet, it does not work. Or you get into a state where if the provider pod dies, it just doesn't it just will go completely out of sync and you essentially have to import the resource manually from there. So I don't know if that's like an Upjet issue or if that's a Crossplane runtime issue, or if we should just rethink how we do async in Crossplane Crossplane/Upjet/runtime altogether.
Yeah. Yes, with the last one, we definitely should rethink how we are doing async with Crossplane runtime being async aware. So that's an issue. But it's good that you mentioned this larger topic of resources being deleted upon pod failures. It was like that, right? When late init was enabled and pod restarts.
It's when late init isn't enabled. So my understanding is if you have an init provider, you essentially want to disable late init because then you can get into a reconciliation essentially loop where it'll say, hey, my init provider says this, but then my status and my for provider say two different things, even though the init provider is there, which maybe that's not the desired behavior, but I have noticed that. And so essentially I just said, okay, turn off late init. And then when the resource essentially when the pod dies, it loses the external name. And so then it will try and recreate the resource, which obviously is problematic. Thankfully, in our case, it ends up failing. So we can just essentially update the annotations, import it manually, and then it ends up being fine. But
yeah, we did a little investigation on the issue and determined that it is because of the external clients. So it's on the provider side, not on the Crossplane side or Crossplane runtime side. It's a bug that we have to debug. Regarding the init provider and late init, yeah, if the external resource, if there's an external controller updating the value of some field that was put into init provider, yes, we are supposed to disable the late init so that the external controller can do its own job without racing with Crossplane controller. But it's not necessary for all init provider fields. I mean, if the field is not externally controlled, then you can do away with using late init. It should work fine. But this whole bug of leaking resources, recreating them is, yeah, definitely we should investigate that on the external client's side. Yep.
And I think maybe the only other thing that I had in my brain was I think I opened up an issue in Crossplane runtime, which I think this is a runtime issue about essentially if you get into a place with Terraform where it needs to update and replace, we don't end up replacing. And my understanding is that because Crossplane runtime doesn't support in-place replacements, that's why essentially Upjet is bound by whatever Crossplane runtime says is allowed. Is that my understanding, or is my understanding correct on that?
Ah, okay. You are now talking about the other issue, asking why Crossplane doesn't replace the resource, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed, that's more like a design decision that was done at the Crossplane resource model level, so it's even higher than Crossplane runtime. So Crossplane resource model is quite defensive in determining how to create and when to destroy resources, really. So when we have an immutable field, we are supposed to delete the resource and recreate it. But I mean, for Crossplane, it's unacceptable for a controller to do so. So that's why it is not implemented in providers. If you are after more, I mean, reasoning behind the decision, you may ask it in Crossplane community.
Yeah,
They
okay.
may have their reasons, but I mean, it's like a design decision. It's how Crossplane works, and it's opinionated on that regard.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I guess my thought is that a lot of the times, like the name of the resource actually changes how it's named in your actual cloud or whatever. So you theoretically, like, unless I want to through composition functions, compositions, whatever, have to delete the resource, then recreate it, and then do those all that sort of fun magic, then yeah, it's painful. So that's why it's like, if I could just have Crossplane replace it for me in place, that's ideal. But no, that makes sense.
Yeah, one nice side effect of not having replaces in the crossplane is not having to
Accidentally.
deal with these issues in the code level. So we are leaving
Yeah.
those issues to the user to
Well,
decide. and
well, I guess my
manage.
thought is, right, we already have management policies. If there was just, you add a replace management policy, then you can essentially just have it where, like, if you enable it, great. If you don't, then also fine.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is only natural to ask providers be able to do that.
Yeah.
So I did have one tiny issue. Wanted to, maybe I'll send it here in Slack. Over here on this CP config, here it says warning, don't use this install config, but then it sends you to this git synced config. But that's a defunct feature. So that was one of the issues that I had when trying to install. I'm not sure if I should bring it up during a like SIG meeting. But didn't know if I should share my screen or what, but there's the link there. It just made the installation very, very, very difficult. And so I was just running through a couple things. I eventually found a workaround, had to create my own YAML and, push a couple things around. But yeah, so, having a like deprecated link on a feature or on an install that is no longer even existing, you know, figured I'd bring it up.
John, you're muted.
Just some context on that. Actually, once we're done with the agenda, we can stop the recording and I'll give you some context.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, this is outside of my expertise. I haven't dealt anything above the managed resource level. So this is about configurations. You're out of luck.
Sure.
I think that was it for me. So, like I said, I can at least run a test locally for me and then send screenshots and stuff and at least get that PR hopefully in a good spot for it to go through. And then I think there's going to be a release not this week, but next week, if I understand correctly. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
that
right,
should
well,
be
if we're done
all I
with the
need.
agenda, Jim, we can stop the recording and then I can quickly try with Blake to get permissions sorted for that test user.
All right. So thanks everyone for joining. And if you're watching, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Jimmy, you need to stop the recording.